Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I'm a little casually dressed because we're talking about phals today, Phalaenopsis. This is the moth orchid. This is the orchid that you can buy at Trader Joe's, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, everywhere. It's produced in really large quantities for a really good price. You can get incredible diversity of plant types and flower types in the Phalaenopsis family. It's really easy to grow, and it's what most people grow in their houses as a beginner type orchid. It's just like I said, it's really easy to grow, and today I'm going a little bit more casual. These are some of my phals, and they're all in pretty much, well, this one's just starting, but they're all in bloom, and some of them are in full bloom. They're beautiful plants. The flowers last a long time, easy care. They can grow under a number of different conditions, and they are great plants. I don't have too many of them because I have mostly other types of orchids where the flowers are not as long-lived, but I really like the fragrance of many of my other orchids, and these don't really offer that, but they do offer a whole world more, and they offer other things. Okay, I did take you, I had a previous video where I visited the facility of the largest Phalaenopsis grower in the United States, and they make millions and millions of plant, and that's Green Circle Growers. They produce the Just Add Ice orchid, but they produce a number of other orchid types as well, and other brands of orchids, but they also produce other types of house plants. And they produce a lot of plants, and they bring them to the public at really economical prices because there's a lot of automation that goes on, because they're dealing with production really of one type of orchid, so it's really ideally suited for automation. But what I like to do is grow them and take care of them and try to get all of my orchids at peak flowering. The exception is Phalaenopsis, which when I get them, and I don't think I've ever bought one, but they're usually given to me as gifts. And what I do is I get them to flower, and after they're done flowering, I clip the flower spike off, and I shove the plant in the pot behind the shed. The shed's right behind me. They like low levels of light. All orchids like filtered light, really not direct sunlight, not all, but most. These are more of shade-loving type orchids, and they can grow in a house, in a window, but not too much direct sun. That's what you got to watch out for. The orchids grow for beginning growers. Phalaenopsis and all orchids grow very, very slowly, and if you keep that in mind, I think you get your expectations knowing that they produce leaves but not very often. Then I think that'll help you out, as long as you know that they do grow so slowly. The easiest way to kill a Phalaenopsis is with love. Too much love, which is the equivalent of too much water. So most Phalaenopsis orchids that are purchased that die, they are killed because people water them too much, and either the pot doesn't drain, or the plant starts wilting a little bit, and people think, oh, it needs water, but actually the roots are rotting, and that's why this plant is not getting, that's why it looks wilted, is because it's not getting water because the roots are rotten. So orchids like to have their roots, a little moist, but they need to dry out. That's the most important thing, is they need to dry out between waterings, and they don't like sitting in standing water. So if you pay attention to that, not too much light, don't overwater it, I think you'll do fine with Phalaenopsis orchids. I want to share with you how I'm growing some of these orchids. They do, let's look at the colors first. They come in a really interesting variety of colors in patterns. I have these orchids here that are in individual pots, and I have these Phalaenopsis orchids right here that are mounted in large conch shells that are actually on a driftwood tree. And there's a good diversity of colors. They have the colors, but they also have some interesting patterns. There's spots on some, there's bars, which are stripes within the leaves. Some of them are more solid colored, but really a nice range of colors and interesting patterns and even sizes. Most of these are pretty similar, but you can get really small ones, and you can get the ones that are quite a bit larger than any of these that I have here. As far as the potting mix and potting media goes, many of these come potted in sphagnum moss. Again, you got to be careful if they sit in sphagnum moss for too long. That's wet, and then the roots will rot, so be a little careful about that. If you have them in sphagnum, water them and let the sphagnum dry out in between waterings. What I like to do is I like to take them out of the sphagnum and put them in other types of mix. The other mix that you'll find some Phalaenopsis in the store in is bark. So the Green Circle growers, the largest producer, they actually use pine. They use pine bark, and they use bark. Now, it's not the landscape pine bark; it's a special orchid potting mix pine bark. But that's what those orchids are planted in, and you can use a whole variety of different media. So this one right here, it looks like it's in a combination of lava stone and these leca, these small clay particles, beads. This is in lava stone. There's another one here that's in lava stone. Again, really dry. And and the roots on some of these things are hanging out, but these are orchids, and that's how they grow. These two orchids right here are growing in a mix that consists of bases of palm tree leaves. So this is something that I developed, that I made up, and they tend to grow really well in that medium. I have this one. This seedling is growing in bark, but you can also mount them. So these are seedlings that are on a piece of cedar, and the roots then grow out and attach to the cedar. I've got these plants mounted on my trees in my front yard and my backyard, everywhere. So the roots grow out and grab onto the tree, and again, that's how they grow in nature. Because of this orchid tree right here, where I have these conch shells on the piece of driftwood, I tried potting some of these Phalaenopsis seedlings in some conch shells that I happen to have, and I drilled holes in the bottom of them. They look like they're doing well. So when I've got some novelty Phalaenopsis orchids that I grew from seed that are growing pretty nicely, it seems like, in conch shells. So they will, on the shells here, what happens is the roots attach to the shells, and then they attach to the driftwood. These are kind of small to do that, but they can handle, these Phalaenopsis orchids can handle a variety of different potting media and mixes. Okay, since I am the plant propagator, how do you propagate these plants? These I grew from seed. That I don't recommend that you try, but these Phalaenopsis orchids, when they get old, they can be divided. They will form what are called keikis, K-E-I-K-I. And keikis is Hawaiian for child. So I have a few of these things, because they're getting a little old, they're forming keikis. So what happens is you have an offshoot of an orchid comes from the stem. After these things grow a while, you'll actually get a stem on the orchid, and then you'll have a keiki, or an orchid child, that will grow out of these larger orchids. And because of how the orchids grow, the roots continue growing from the top. There's the keiki that's at the base of this orchid here and this orchid here. You can essentially separate them. So you can cut the stem between the keiki that's on the base of the plant, and then you separate the top part of the plant. I'll have a video on this later, not now. And then you can get 2 plants from each one of these. Phalaenopsis orchids also can make keikis from the flower spike. So these are fairly easy to propagate. What you have to be careful of is once you see the child, which is a baby, when it starts, once you see this forming, don't cut the baby off of the plant. Wait until it's actually a child. So wait until the orchid, the keiki gets a little bit bigger and it has enough roots form, and then you know it'll grow independently. All right. So those are a few different ways that you can grow these Phalaenopsis orchids from keikis or babies. You divide them. All right. So that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to give you kind of a very general basic overview of Phalaenopsis orchids and the diversity that you can have in phals, and what different types of potting mix you can use, how they should be grown. Again, low light, don't overwater them. The easiest way to kill a Phalaenopsis orchid, as well as any orchid, and you should be good to go. If you don't get a bloom right away, they bloom typically once a year, so it takes a while to get a new bloom. If you don't want to wait, throw it out, buy another one. They're not very expensive. It's the most economical orchid that you can buy. But they'll bloom once a year. Sometimes you get, again, repeat bloomers out of an old spike, but those usually aren't as showy as the first spike that comes out of the plant. All right, so just be patient with your Phalaenopsis orchids, as well as any orchid. It will reward you if it grew it properly with additional blooms over its lifetime. And it'll grow, these orchids will grow forever, as long as you have the patience to keep it growing, to keep on splitting it and dividing it and pulling the keikis off. These things will reward you with years and years of blooming. All right. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. If you have comments about or questions about how to grow your phals, I do answer all of my comments, and so put those in the comments section and I'll get to those when I can. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.